In this video, I'm going to show you how easy it is to go from a digital PDF to a printed out zine right from home. I love zines so much. These self-published little booklets are just too cool, but sometimes my favorite creators only put out digital versions, and I want the real thing, the physical version that I can hold and read and keep on my shelf. So let's print up some zines. First things first, you're gonna need a few supplies. The main one is a saddle stitch stapler or a long neck stapler. If you're putting together your own zines, this is kind of a must-have in my opinion. A regular stapler just won't work. I guess you can use like a needle and thread and do like bookbinding stuff, but I like to stick with just a couple of staples. Another super helpful tool that you probably already have is a spoon. Doesn't have to be a wooden one like this. A metal one would work great too. What else is there to say about a spoon? You'll see it in action later. I also recommend getting a paper cutter. These little ones that just slide back and forth work if you're making just a few zines that don't have too many pages. But if you're cranking out a lot of copies and need to trim booklets down that have like more than 12 pages, go ahead and get a big old rotary cutter. There's like a little spinning blade in here that cuts through the paper. I've had this one for years and have trimmed thousands of zines and mini comics on this thing, so if you get a good one, it'll last. If you're just making a few zines and don't want to invest in a paper cutter, you can also use a metal ruler and an X-Acto knife, a hobby knife. It just takes a little bit longer, a little slower, but works just as good. And lastly, of course, you have to have a printer. I have this Epson EcoTank 2850 that I like. The ink for this printer is a little bit cheaper than having to constantly buy cartridges, and the print quality is fairly nice. And the really cool feature that I love is it can print on both sides of the paper. That's gonna come in handy later. Oh, I guess you're also gonna need a zine to print. I'm gonna be printing out some tabletop role-playing game zines by one of my favorite creators, Nate Treme. His Patreon, Highland Paranormal Society, has a ton of rules-light games and adventures. Some of them are only digital, so I'm printing them out myself. The easiest way to do all of this is with a PDF that is split up into individual pages like this one. I have it open in Adobe Acrobat, which you can download for free. Here's the big trick. All you have to do is click print and then make sure the booklet option is selected. Adobe Acrobat will automatically paginate the printout, so the first page and the last page are next to each other, then the second page and second to last page are next to each other, so on and so on. Then if your printer can do double-sided, you might have to click around and find the printer properties and select double-sided. Most letter size zines like this one, 8.5 by 11, folded in half, will be landscape orientation, and they'll be flipped on the short edge of the paper. So keep that in mind as you're figuring out the settings for double-sided printing. If your printer can only print on one side at a time, don't worry. You'll just have to be ready to flip the page over and feed it back into the printer kind of one page at a time. A little bit of a hassle, but not a huge deal for one-off zine printing. Once you got all the settings set up, just hit print and let it rip. Okay, as my zines are printing out, I got a couple of tips to make sure your zines turn out as good as possible. First of all, do some experimenting with your printer settings. Do some test prints with different print quality and paper types. Sometimes just selecting a nicer paper will trick the printer into printing nicer. Also, I think it goes a long way to actually get some nicer paper. Regular printer paper is pretty lightweight, so if you get some heavier stock, it'll really amp up the quality of your home printouts. The same goes for the cover. I'm using even thicker paper called cardstock on these zines. You can use just white cardstock or even mix it up with some color paper. That especially looks good with these black and white printouts. Now, one thing I really wish I could do but I can't figure it out, is reduce the scale of the printout just a little bit. Maybe one of you knows how to do it. Hit me up down in the comments. If you're printing zines that have full bleed, like the artwork and stuff goes off the edge of the page, your printer will probably cut off a little bit. There'll be like a little margin all the way around the outside. You can see on this one where the artwork is getting cut off a little bit. Well, you can definitely just trim that off. We'll talk about that in a minute. But if I could reduce the print size down to like 95% or so, none of the artwork would get cut off. So I could still trim it, but save all of the artwork and margin around the type and everything. So I think I just got to do a little bit more of my own experimenting to figure this stuff out. Okay, now that you have everything printed out, let's assemble these zines. Really couldn't be simpler. I always do a quick flip through just to make sure all the pages are in order. Then I set the size on my saddle stitch stapler. Because these are sheets of letter size paper, that's 8.5 by 11 inches, that are gonna be folded in half, I want my staple to land right in the middle of that 11-inch page. So I set it to 5.5 inches on my stapler. Then I just line up the printouts and slam 2 staples right into the middle. Now, I'm a staple then fold kind of guy, so now it's time to fold the zine. I like to use the edge of my paper cutter so I can just bump the 2 edges up and keep things nice and straight, give it a little pat, and then you take your spoon and really flatten out the spine of the booklet. All right, it's looking good, looking good. You can totally stop there, but I like to give a little trim around the outside, especially if there's those unprinted margins that need to get cut away, and especially to get rid of the pesky flared out pages from the folding along the outside edge. Honestly, I don't do any measuring or anything like that with the paper cutter. I just slide the folded edge in there and give it a little trim as close to the edge of the print as I can get it. I try to keep the zine squared up on the edge of the paper cutter, so I'm getting nice 90-degree cuts. I really think trimming the edges is like the little finishing touch that makes a home printed zine feel a little more elevated, a little nicer, a little more professional. And just like that, I've got some new zines to add to my collection. And if you're looking to add some fun tabletop role-playing game zines to your collection and support the channel, check out my online shop. There are digital versions that you can print out yourself, but I also have printed ones that I'll ship directly to you. And honestly, I put a lot of effort into making these printed ones super high quality and special feeling, so, you know, they're worth saving some printer ink for. I hope you found this video helpful and it gets you inspired to make and print up some zines. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. See ya!